All right, aloha everybody. Welcome to the coffee Q&A. Q&A, good to see you. How are you doing? This is a box of coffee that I got that I thought would be kind of interesting. I was trying to think about what I'm going to do today. And then I was like, oh, let's do this coffee. So this is it. This is a coffee that I picked up. I have no idea how I picked it up, but we're going to get into it and check it out. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the coffee Q&A. We're starting a whole nother week here. In the United States, we had our Labor Day yesterday, which is our big holiday that marks the end of summer. And you know what? It's kind of weird because sometimes I get in these like grooves where I really don't know what's going on. Like on Friday, I was thinking, I've got to go do this event at Capitol. Got to go watch the Roots. And yeah, I kind of knew it was Labor Day, but I wasn't thinking, oh, we're not going to have a show on Monday. So I don't know why. But anyway, so that's what happened yesterday. But today we're back with this coffee from a place called Drop Coffee of Stockholm, Sweden. This is a company that started in 2009, as you can see here in Stockholm. They're a fairly small roaster that sells coffee. I really don't know too much about them, but somehow I received this box of coffee from someone. I'm really grateful, but I just don't know when. But if we look here at the top label, Mom, good morning to you, and Dan as well. You can see here that it says that it is roasted. Hold on 1 second. Roasted November 7th, 2014. Or is that July 31st? There it is, July 31st, 2014. That's when it was roasted. And it's best used by October 31st, Halloween 2014. So this coffee is 10 years old, or coming up on 10 years old, almost 10 years old. And so now it's been in my freezer for the past 9 years. Basically, I brought it home. Where was I in 2014? I'm trying to think of where would I have been in the summer of 2014 that I would have picked this up. So somehow I got it in the summer of 2014, and I brought it home, put it in the freezer, because you know what? I have a lot of coffees. A lot of them I'll just put in the freezer, and I just never get to them. And so this is how this thing ended up here. There's no intent or reason for the length of time that I've had it. It's just sitting there, and there's always a constant stream of coffee. So sometimes I just don't get really into it, for the fact that I just never got to it. So this is the coffee. It's from Kenya. It's called the Marimira. Marimira is actually a co-op that there's just over 600 farmers that belong to this co-op. Each of them has about 0.4 hectares of land. So it's really a lot of small producing farmers in Kenya that are putting together their coffees, bringing them as a co-op, and then they process the coffee that way. And so this one the varieties are a blend of SL28s and SL34s and double A. What that means is that the double A standard in Kenya is the best quality, the largest quality beans that are being produced. SL28 and SL34, both are very well-regarded varieties of Arabica. The SL stands for Scott's Laboratories, that did a lot of coffee development. And, they just added sequential numbers, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 30, 34, 34. But these hybrids, these varieties that have come out and proven themselves to be really focused on delivering nice quality coffees are like the SL28, the SL34. So that's kind of why it gets a lot of attention. If you see them around, a lot of coffees in Africa will have these designations, SL28, SL34. Even down in Central America, we've had a really beautiful SL28 from Toño Barantes in Costa Rica. Now, it also says here that the Muruguru region, and it's about 1730, is that 1730? Yeah, 1730 meters. And looks like the process, I can't read Swedish, so I have no idea what that says now. But it looks like it was harvested October to December 2013. So it sat around, for a good 7 months after being harvested. And talks about aroma and other stuff like that. But, if you guys can read Swedish, then let me know. Let me know. I get my IKEA in English. So what can I say? All right, so let's get into it. We're going to go open this up here. Now, as you can see, I've already opened it, or it was already open. I don't know whether I opened it back then or somebody had opened it. I don't know. I don't know. Let's open up. And the interesting thing that I think about this coffee, it's 10 years old. This is going to give us a glimpse into what coffee roasting was like from specialty coffee roasters, especially Scandinavian roasters that are all about light roasting, right? Like Tim Wendelbo. We're going to see what they were doing 10 years ago and see how it might compare to well, we won't compare it ourselves, but, at least those of you who are buying coffees from this region, it'll be kind of a comparison to see how things may have changed or stayed the same. All right, so let's pull it out. Oh. I don't know about you, but it strikes me as fairly dark compared to modern times. So as you can see, the bag has been opened. Let's get our little monkey pod. I don't know. I mean, I would say that's still fairly light, but maybe not as light as some of the coffees that are being roasted today. There's definitely some aroma coming out of it. Now, before we started the show, I ran up to upstairs where the freezers. I pulled it out, came down, hit the start button, and this is kind of what you have to do when you're dealing with frozen coffees. Now, it's going to take a little bit of a dip because we're going to do the entire show, and then I'll put this back. So this will be out for almost an hour, probably. Ideally, if you're dealing with freezing coffees, you just want to take out exactly what you need. Maybe pull out the freezer, measure out the amount of coffee that you want to use, put the bag back, roll it back up, put it back in the freezer, and then brew your coffee. Now, there are people who talk about, freezing coffee and then thawing it's going to have problems. Now, we're in the middle of summer here still, or the summer's just ending, so it's fairly humid in our environment. But as you can see, the condensation isn't really starting. It's really been out for a good 5 minutes or so, right? Part of that is because, even though there's moisture in the air, there's really no moisture in the beans, right? And it's not collecting. Peter, good to see you. So I don't know. I don't really have much concern over moisture, condensation, because basically we're just going to put it, typically we would put it straight into the grinder, grind it up. The low moisture content's only about 2 to 3% in these light roasted coffees. Perhaps with light roasted coffees, it might be slightly more, maybe 3.5%. I don't think that there's that dramatic a difference between the way and the way that the coffee is roasted, right? Okay, so let's measure out some coffee here. We'll get our big scale, and we're going to, I was thinking, so I looked up Drop Coffee Roaster, which Drop does not currently offer this same Kenya today. They have different Kenyas. I did find a website, I did find a PDF on Inter-American Coffee's website. Inter-American is a very large coffee importer, exporter around the world. And you can look, I put a link there, so you can read more about Marimira, to just learn more about it if you're interested. So, probably one of these things where, they probably buy from Inter-American, and that's not unusual in the business. Like a lot of coffee companies, even my own, rely upon importers to supply coffee because, you just can't, most companies do not have the capital reserves to buy all the coffee that they need for the year all at one time, which is what you have to do when you're working with the farms. Like the farmers, they don't want to be like, well, can I take 2 bags now and 2 more bags in 3 months or whatever it may be? And it's like, well, we need to get paid now, right? So the importers will buy all the coffee that they need or they think they'll consume, and then they'll sell it to smaller roasters. And it's really a symbiotic relationship that works really well, and you can really get nice quality coffees. So just because a a roaster is not sourcing directly from a farm does not necessarily diminish the quality of coffee that they can offer. All right, so let us look here. Now, I looked on their website, and they said that they were using, or they had, it looks like they're using Kalita 185 wave brewers. I couldn't find my Kalita. I have no idea where it is. Probably in another box. Honestly, the Kalita is kind of like low on my priority as far as brewers. Like, I'm just like, okay, whatever. But I was trying to find it so that we could like use it and try to mimic the experience we might receive from by going to drop, but I couldn't find that. So we're going to do the next best thing. We're going to use the Time More wave because it's kind of that similar square bottom basket type of brewer. So we'll get, I wanted to kind of mimic what we would receive at drop. And so here's something I could ask for you. So they do 15 grams, 250 milliliters of water. We do 24 grams, 350 milliliters of water. Ratio wise, they're similar, but like, should we go for the 15 and 250 or stay with our typical 24, 350? I'll let you weigh in on that. So yeah, there it is. This is it. We're going to get the Time More. I like the Time More. I think it's kind of an interesting grinder. I'm digging it. Thank you, CQA. This is a wonderful brewer as well. What I like about the Time More actually is maybe a little bit strange. I really like the thickness. Like, it's got this thickness that's just, it feels very substantial. You know what I'm saying? Very substantial. And I also like the whole wind tunnel, like turbine looking thing. All right, let's get what I really need to do is if I keep using this, I'm going to have to really start to look for sourcing of the filters, because these are kind of proprietary filters right now. I'm not sure if these are just feeling thick or if I have two. Yeah, they're just feeling thick. All right, put that in there. Very nice. Any thoughts on, gotta make sure that I don't lose that ruffle. My friend Will was going to a wedding over the weekend. He called me up. He's like, hey, man, do you happen by chance to have any of those old school 70s, 80s tuxedo shirts with the ruffles? And I was like, dude, I don't. And if I did, I would have it wouldn't fit today. Peter says, plastic brewer, that's good. Yeah. I think it's a nice brewer. It's got these big ribs on it. We've had some good results, I think, with it. Okay, we're going to go, we're just going to go with our typical 24 grams because that's what we do here. And that way we can, kind of compare it on apples to apples kind of thing. 24, let's go to 24. Okay, good. Now what I want to do is I'm going to take the rest of this and put it back in its bag. And maybe we'll taste this in 2034. See how it turns out after 20 years. Of course, we get back to our trusty goodness. Our trusty Barazza Virtuoso. We're going to set it to the 20 setting for pour over brewing. And let's go do it. Let's do it. Oops. That's cleared. Okay, good, good. We're going to take that out of the way now. Bring our coffee here. It has pleasant, mild coffee aromatics, toast, warmth. That's kind of it. Unfortunately, since I can't read Swedish, I have no idea what it's supposed to taste like or what kind of flavor profiles it's supposed to have. But, you know, we'll just take care of that. All right, let's put this here. Put this here. Peter says, I did a MacGyver on my broken Hario switch and got it working. Oh, awesome. So what did you end up doing to the switch that you were able to fix it? Did you like just glue pieces together? I had this image that's all shard and like that maybe the base part that fits in is still intact, but it's like jaggy. That's what's in my mind. Using a stainless steel funnel for the, oh, okay. Oh, God. Nice. And a glass marble for the ball switch, which I asked, oh, no, you threw out the ball? That's terrible. I'm sorry to hear that. This has been such an adventure for you, Peter, on this whole switch journey. All right, there we go. Got some coffee in there. Tear out the scale. And timer's ready, and we're going to hit it. We're going to do about 40 mils or so for our first pour, the bloom. I'm not expecting much blooming because, you know, this is a 10-year-old coffee. $46 grams didn't really seem to put much in there. Definitely getting no lift. There's no blooming whatsoever. No degassing. I mean, we can't really expect degassing after such a period of time, I guess. Peter says, I'm thinking about buying a Bricka Mocha. Oh, you know, I'm not familiar with the Bricka Mocha. But yeah, man, you should totally get it. So where are those made and who would you go to get them? And I guess what I'm leading up to is if you buy the Bricka Mocha, could you ask who their purveyor to send you a new glass and maybe a new stainless ball? All right, 1 minute, 112. I hit that one a little bit harder. 150, we're at 148. Just coming up on 1 minute and a half. Now, one of the things I've always kind of said is that you can hold coffee in the freezer indefinitely. I don't recall what this coffee tasted like. I don't think I did any tasting notes of it, even though the bag was open. But we're going to see. Like, this is going to put it a little bit to the test. Will we be able to have something? To be a Letty. Okay, gotcha. Will this be is that a stainless one? Is that stainless? I've been wanting to get the stainless mocha pot because then I can use it on a induction top. All right, 2 minutes, 2:10. Definitely the brewing is different because it's just flat. There's no reaction. It's just dropping. We are getting extraction, as you can see. There's still extraction happening, of course, but you know, I wonder. It kind of sets the tone that maybe it's not going to be very good. Maybe my theory of indefinite freezing, or freezing will hold the coffee indefinitely, is fallible. You know, if I make a mistake and, you know, ridiculous proclamations, it wouldn't be the first time. All right, 250, we're at 283. Now we have to kind of speed it up a little bit because too much talking. And Keone says that there are quite a few cafes here in Thailand that just use mocha pots. Oh, interesting. Are they smaller cafes? Like there's so many interesting things to explore with coffee, I think. Like as I was, preparing for today's show, I was trying to find some videos to see how they brew coffee here at Drop. And okay, we're at 350. Okay, I want to stop there. And I remember, and then some of the videos mentioned something called fika, which remind me of that there was something called fika. And fika evidently is the I don't know if it's Swedish or Scandinavian, but it's like the way they do coffee. And I was thinking, oh, if I ever go back to that part of the world, maybe that's what I should be doing videos about what is fika and how do Swedes or Scandinavians enjoy fika, right? Not necessarily in the specialty. You know me, I'm not terribly interested in the specialty coffee thing. Sometimes it's like I want to see like what has led us to where we are in specialty. All right, so 4 minutes now, and looks like we're pretty much done here. So let's take this out. Peter says they do make a stainless induction. I've seen the stainless induction base, right? But I just don't. I don't know why I have this feeling, but I feel like having the plate and then putting the aluminum mocha pot seems more dangerous, right? Because like I don't know, I feel like using a plate would just for whatever reason. There's no real like probably basis for that, but having this plate that's heated. In the cafe environment, I would want to take the plate off, right? To put this on it, right? And I worry that if I took the plate might be more dangerous. I might burn myself or put it down on a surface where it doesn't belong. Whereas if you're holding a brewer, you may think differently. I don't know. I've thought about it because I do have a couple mocha pots that are aluminum. I may end up getting one of those plates anyway. Kenny says, not really, not unusual to see 6 to 10 pots going at once. Wow. Really? That's kind of interesting. Actually, what I'd be interested to see is like, you got all these pots, mocha pots, and they're all burning, right? They're all cooking. You pour the coffee, and it's especially in a busy location, you have to reset your pot. Like I wonder, how are they able to do that on the fly? Like when the aluminum is still hot. Like I'm interested in just an operation from an operational perspective on how they might do that. To me, that'd be very interesting to go watch. And Peter says the Vietnamese do a fin drip brewer. Oh yes. I would like to go to Vietnam and see that happen. Like I've had people show me what they do and teach me their style, but I would like to see it like in a production environment where people are like making, fin after fin after fin after fin, because I just think it's fascinating. All right, so here's our coffee. For some reason, on the monitor, it looks kind of muddy, but it's not. It's slightly muddy, but not really muddy, I would say. But I guess not clear. What are we getting for aromatics? Kind of neutral, warm, toast. Not so much, not so much. There's our elixir here. I mean, it is kind of clear. I don't know why it just looks a little more tan. Maybe it's the style of the roasting. The roasting is kind of light. Peter says, no induction plates, no induction mocha pots, no plates. Yeah, I get that. Totally, I'm with you on that. Totally. And then Dan says, I'd be interested in a video about the Finn brewer. So far, my attempts are not great for me. Oh, all right. We'll work on that. Actually, I think I have a Finn brewing video. If you go to the other channel, which is called Spro Coffee, SPRO Coffee, I've got a whole series of videos there that when I started making videos on YouTube, that we shot at the old cafe. that actually shows exactly how we make our drinks. Like it's kind of a step-by-step how to make the menu at Spro. So I think there's one there, but we can work on a fresher one that would be more enjoyable. Oh, I think I also have I also have one that I shot on this channel. It's called My Despised Coffee. Like when people walk in and order the Fin, because here's the thing. So like I'm a little bit dumb in that like I want to pursue it. If we're gonna offer it, I want to pursue it at a good level, right? Maybe not necessarily high level, but at least at a good level. Like so if you come in, you want a Vietnamese iced coffee, a cafe fin, we're gonna make it for you. We're gonna make it in what I have been taught is supposedly the traditional way, right? Like I went to this one Vietnamese cafe and they had this heavy like cold brew that they just mixed with like the condensed milk. And I was like, oh, they're Vietnamese. So I mean they know the flavor. And they're probably like using Cafe Trung and or Trung Nguyen, right? Is that Trung? Trung Wing. Trung Wing. And they're Vietnamese, so who am I to say what's right or wrong? But that's not how we would do it. Like we want to use the fin and brew it in, with darker roasted coffee brewed into the vessel with the cream condensed milk. But every time someone orders it, it takes like 5 minutes or longer to make. So it's like, people would order, be like, oh, okay, very good Vietnamese iced coffee, be right up. But really, you're just like, at least I was always like, just cringing. I was like, oh God, here we go. And if like multiple people ordered, then it's like we only had like 4 fins. So if we got to like 3 people and then somebody else came in, you're like, oh no, here it comes. The 4th fin person. So all right, Dan, we'll work on that. Okay, let's have a taste. Kind of dry. There's a very light hint of raisin. It's okay. Yeah, it's dry in the palate. Hints of raisin. Not too much in the body. Yeah, maybe this is an example of where, like, I have been saying that you can hold frozen coffee indefinitely. Maybe this is a example that there is a point where you will have exceeded the utility of freezing, because at nearly 10 years, no, actually, it was roasted. What did I say? It was roasted the 31st of July. So it is over 10 years old. This is a 10-year-old roasted coffee that has been roasted for majority of it. I mean, that has been frozen for the majority of the 10 years. And I don't know what it was like to begin with, but it doesn't, the brightness, if there was a strong brightness, that's diminished. The body, if there was body, that's diminished. It feels like it's a hollow rendition of what it might have been. Like, a lot of these roasters in Scandinavia, they're very much about brightness and like citrusy notes. There's some remnants of that citrusy. There's like citrus notes that are kind of there, maybe in the manner of like a dried what's it, dried blood orange, right? There's that kind of thing. And then there's a light hint of like raisin. There's also a little bit of mustiness, right? Of course, it's difficult to say for exactly how it might have changed because I don't recall what it tasted like fresh. Not terribly thrilling. Keone says all the Vietnamese restaurants and cafes in Hawaii use the Café du Monde canned coffee. What do they use in Vietnam? I have yet to go to Vietnam. I totally mucked up my trip there last year, but I believe the one that the Trung Wing. I keep saying it that way because I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it. It's spelled in English. It's spelled Nguyen, and I think they say that's pronounced as wing. I think Nguyen. I don't know, but that one is kind of, to me. That's that Trung Wing is like the classic of the Vietnamese ones, where they have the Robusta coffee, and it doesn't have the chicory like Café du Monde has. It actually has artificial flavoring of chocolate. So there's chocolate flavoring in the coffee. We did not use that at Spro. Like, we actually would roast our own. So we would use what we call the now I can't remember the name. The Night Watch. It was a coffee that we started producing because when we started Spro in 2006, we never had dark roasted coffees. And then we started roasting our own in 2011. Or actually, we started in 2008, but we didn't really open our roastery till 2011. But then we were roasting in 2008. When we started roasting, we didn't roast dark roast either. And so when we opened the Hamden shop, people were always coming in. They're always like, "Hey, do you have dark roasted coffee? Do you have dark roasted? I'm afraid we don't have dark roasted coffee. I'm sorry, we don't have dark roasted coffee." And we would never be like, that kind of like, "Oh no," right? We don't have it. I don't like to have an attitude about it. Just kind of like, "I'm sorry, we just don't offer that," right? And then one day I'm roasting, and sometimes you get distracted, you lose control of roast, and you over roast your coffee, and you kind of dark roast it. So the roasters that piss me off are the ones that are like, they're so like pretentious. They're like, "Well, we would just throw it away." It's like, really? You're going to throw away your own money? You're going to throw away the money that you spent, and then you're going to throw away the work that all these farmers have done. It's like, so when I would over roast the coffee, I was like, "What are we going to do with this thing? Like, can we really offer this?" And I was like, "You know what? I'm going to keep it behind the counter, not put it on the menu. Just keep it behind the counter." So when people would come in again, like some regulars would come in, they're always asking, "Do you have any dark roast? Do you have any dark roast?" One day I was like, "Do you have dark roast?" I said, "Actually, we do. Would you like some?" And we started making it. And so we actually got a nice following because, unlike a lot of, like, I guess, roasters that are using darker roasts, who will, because the feeling is that darker roasted coffee, because you're kind of adding a darker roast profile and maybe even a little bit char to it, that the coffee doesn't matter. You can buy cheaper quality coffee in order to roast darker. And that's the kind of the feeling that people have with decaf as well as flavored coffees, right? Let's just buy the cheapest coffee we can get. We're going to mask it with our roast profile, with our artificial flavors, or it's decaf. So who cares, right? Those people don't care. But because the way, it's partially because I wouldn't do it that way, but also partially because, I just over roasted some coffee. And the coffee that I was over roasting, of course, was our mainline top quality or good, quality coffee. And people can tell the difference. I've always believed that people can tell the difference, right? If I give you, it's basically like putting makeup on a pig, right? You just can't change the pig. It still has the makeup, right? So it's kind of like that. If I use crappy quality coffee to make your dark roast, you're going to taste that crap through it. And the same goes if you use nice quality coffee, you're still going to have a better experience with the dark roasted coffee than anybody else. And so that's what we ended up doing. And so eventually it made its way from like under the counter for those in the know who asked for it to actually a place on the menu. And so we would use that coffee for our Vietnamese iced coffee, grind it really fine, put it in the fin. And the fin has its own problems. Like, right, the fin is, if you grind it fine, you put in the fin is like super slow. You're just like, oh my gosh, we have a line. This is killing me. So I am interested to see in Vietnam how these cats are able to, like, do a whole cafe with only fins to operate with. Dan says it's not a great work for a cafe. I totally agree with you on that. Works when you dine in somewhere and they bring the fin and leave it brewing at the table. Yeah, that is definitely a nicer presentation. But I am curious to see, like, to go to Ho Chi Minh or what, or any part of Vietnam to see them in. I would like to see them in action. Like, to me, it's really exciting to watch like craftspeople in action. Like, we have a video that was from a place called Because Coffee in Manila, where these guys, these baristas, young baristas, really nice, really friendly. They have great mastery of what they're doing. They're just like we were there, and I was like, well, "What's going on with these guys?" And I was talking to the one barista, and I was like, "What's going on with this?" And they were like, "Well, yeah, we actually have an order for 300 cold brews from a company." And so as they're working this line that never seemed to drop below 10 or 15 people the entire time we were there, they're also processing this 300 cold brew order. And I was like, I don't even know if I would have I don't even know if Spro would have the capacity to supply 300 cups of cold brew at one time. We would just be hosed. We were like, we made 50 and now we can't serve you anymore. So what I really enjoyed about that place was watching those guys in action, because they were truly awesome, like professional, just totally slinging it and not losing a beat, not sweating, just rolling with it. Just amazing to watch. Amazing to watch. Dan wants to know if it has a freezer taste. I don't think it's necessarily a freezer burn, like because coffee doesn't have, and it's fairly, it's not totally airtight, but I mean, it's fairly well protected from the cold. But one of the things that causes freezer burn in foods is the actual freezing and oxidation of the freezing and oxidation of the protein or the cells, which causes that like when you look at meat that's like freezer burn, you're all like, oh God, that looks terrible. I don't think that's happened here. I think it's just a matter of it being like old and dissipating. And I'm guessing that this is a very delicate coffee because, roasters of this genre love the delicate tea, like light roasted, light everything, citrusy coffees. And maybe there's just not enough oomph to last over a period of time. And it's not necessarily designed that way, of course. They do have the date of, sell by or consume by or best before October 31st, 2014. So it's not a coffee that's meant to be used 10 years later, right? Peter says Cafe du Monde is American, I think. New Orleans. Yes, that's true. That's true. As Keone says, yes, chicory and coffee blend. And yeah, Peter likes because they put the chicory, definitely. I was actually, there's a place here called PJ's Coffee that's evidently a chain from New Orleans, a coffee shop chain. And they opened the location near the Baltimore airport. And I was like, which is like a 40-minute drive for me. So like every week I'm like, I need to go check it out and get some beignets. Really, I just want beignets. That's all. Peter says, but in Vietnam, they blend it with leftover garbage like burned rice to bulk it up. Oh, yeah, I get that. I mean, if you happen to have seen the video that we released last weekend from a place called Chuan Ho, which is a coffee roastery in Klang, Malaysia, the owner, Tan Lun Chuan, was telling us that they sell a variety of coffees, right? Because their clientele, the cafes, the kopitiams that they sell to, serve different parts of the market. At the more cost conscious end, that's serving a lot of like workers, they need a more cost effective coffee solution than one of the nicer ones like Chong Kok or something like that, right? And they were telling me that the cheapest coffee that they serve is actually a blend of 3% Robusta with 97% roasted wheat berries. And I was like, whoa, really? So I thought that was a really interesting dynamic to learn about, because we're always about, in our specialty where we always say, oh, purity, 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 but really you have to be there is a market that does need to be met. Peter says there's a story about people getting busted for putting used battery and other fillers. Wow, used battery. Good Lord. That's terrible. Keone says that there actually is an interesting article on how Café du Monde became a standard of Vietnamese American families and cultures. Seems that the French influence and use of trickery. Oh, that's I've never really wondered enough to go find out, but I always thought it was curious that people that Vietnamese places had turned to Café du Monde because. But the French connection between the two cultures, that seems very much plausible. Peter says, in China, the cheap teas are a blend of recycled old tea leaves blend for poor people. Wow, really? Like, when you say old tea leaves, like they've been used already by other tea drinkers, and then they're just dried out, and then, because that's wild. That's wild. I mean, I get it. There's I saw these videos recently of in the Philippines, where in Manila, in the poor neighborhoods, the people there, they scour the garbage looking for freshly tossed foods that have partially been consumed. You go to the Jollibee and you go through their trash and you find, I guess some people don't eat all the meat that's on the bones. I'm eating all the meat. I'm not, if I'm eating Popeyes, man, I'm eating the entire thing. I'm not wasting that, right? But evidently people don't. And these guys will take the used meat, the partially consumed chicken or whatever it is. They'll bring it back or pork ribs or whatever. They'll bring it home. They'll wash it. They'll clean it really well. And then they'll cook it and serve it to people. And I was like, whoa. I mean, it's very affordable meals, right? But it is a way of creating livelihood for the people that are doing it. But it's just wow. I mean, there's a market for everything. Baldhead Craig is with us. What's going on, Craig? How are things up in Ottawa? Yeah, as Peter says, there's a market for everything, and everyone agreed. Totally agree with that. Yes, it's called Pug Pug. Thank you, Pug Pug. I've never seen that. I've never seen that until I saw it on YouTube, and I was like, whoa, that's amazing. I'll be honest, I don't know if I'm brave enough to go eat it. I would be, knowing that, but those who have tried it, they say it's good. My next trip to Manila is going to be investigating more what they call pares, which is just beef soupy kind of thing with lots of cartilage and stuff. That's my next investigation. All right, so one thing we're going to talk about. I was thinking we're going to do it tomorrow, but tomorrow's Wednesday already. Maybe on Thursday. Tomorrow, I think we're going to do something different. I've got some donuts we're working on, and I went to my local baker and I was like, "Hey, can you make me donut? Can you make me jelly donuts without the jelly?" He's like, "You mean just the shells?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Okay, I'll come pick it up Wednesday." So hopefully they'll have my shells ready. I've got some ideas that I wanted to share with you guys as far as a donut for the coffee. And we'll do that. Plus also, maybe on Thursday, I want to talk more about what I kind of discovered this past weekend. We had an event at Capital Cigars and Tobacco in Bethesda, Maryland, where we took the one coffee, or Guatemala Huehuetenango, and brewed it 3 ways. Did cold brew, French press, and the clever, immersion, filtered immersion, and had some really interesting findings that I wanted to talk more about. So we'll talk more about that probably on Thursday. So that's kind of what we're working on. Dan says, ever tried coffee made from roasted barley? I have, because a friend of mine was a couple years ago, he was like, hey man, he was on this barley kick for some reason. He read about it or something. He was like, can you roast barley? And I was like, yeah. I said, well, I don't see why not. And so he bought a bunch of barley, brought it over to the roaster. We started roasting it. And roasted barley is interesting because in the world of coffee, there's something called Yeah, I have a coffee from a farm called Limoncillo, and it is the elephant coffee, the Margohipe, which is a large. It's a hybrid between um, Pacamara and Agohipe. They hybridize this coffee, and it creates these very large beans, like some of the largest beans in the industry, right? Like when you look at them, you're like, "Whoa, that's huge," which can deliver really interesting and lovely flavors. But the problem with that coffee is that as you're roasting it, it's roasting, it's roasting, it's roasting, it's roasting, and it's sudden, and then it hits a point where suddenly you're going from really nicely roasted to just you've lost control of it. And just boom, and like over a moment, you're just like, oh God, I gotta drop it. And then it's over roasted, and it's kind of a strange and crazy coffee to roast. It's really difficult to roast, at least to roast well. The barley was kind of like that because the barley, it's in the roaster. It's churning, it's churning. And I don't really know how people roast barley. I just kind of putting the coffee thing on it. Like, we want to go for like, you know, 9 minutes, 10 minutes, 12 minutes at the most. And the first batch we were doing was good. It's going well, looking nice, doing the trier, everything looks good. And suddenly, boom, it just took off. And I was like, and it just basically was like almost going to incinerate in the roaster. I was like, ah. So when I popped it out, it was like super black, like way too black to use. I think I still have it in a bag somewhere because I tend to keep those kind of things. But we did a subsequent roast, and they turned out fairly well. It's not my thing. Like I bought a bag of the barley tea from Japan, and you put it in you put the bag, and they come little sachets, and you put them in like your pot, your boiling kettle, and you boil it for like 20 minutes, half an hour. Makes the barley tea, which I think is enjoyable every once in a while. So Kieran says, like filled malasadas or dandelions or dandelion coffee. I have not tried dandelion coffee. Like filled malasadas. Yeah. You know how like so there's filled malasadas and there's also like jelly donuts or like Boston cream pie donuts, right? So the idea is to test out. There's a video on the channel you can look at. It's from Saudi Arabia. I think it's called Donuts, but basically we went to Pause Coffee Roasters in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. My buddy Ahmed Baha was at least running the coffee program at the time then, and he's very generous. God, he's like giving me coffee and like food and all this stuff. It was really great. But one of the things that he gave me was this donut that was Nutella filled with za'atar top. And it sounds weird, but gosh, it was so good. It was so good. So I've been thinking about it ever since we went there. And I was like, I should make that. And so I was like, well, let's work on it. Maybe we can prepare it for, maybe we'll prepare it for the new shop, right? But and I was going to make the donut, but you know what? Donut making really is time consuming. And I just don't have it. I just don't feel like putting the time into it. That's really all it is. Burned rice Japanese tea is also good. Oh, the ganmaicha. Okay, ganmaicha. Gotcha. Yeah. But is that really burned? Would you say that's burned? Because the ganmaicha always looks kind of like brownish, not really. Dan says, oh yeah, don't enjoy. What? I don't even know what dandelion coffee is. Is it just dandelions that you're steeping like a tea, or is it dandelions mixed in with a coffee and somehow? Not burned, toasted. Oh, okay, gotcha. Raisins, like I said, like dried blood oranges. Not thrilling to drink, so maybe the takeaway is to consider that lightly roasted specialty coffee from in the style of Scandinavia is not a candidate for long-term freezer aging. A little bit disappointing. Oh, dandelion roots. Wow. Crazy. That's crazy. All right. Dan says, I've had genmaicha where the rice is almost popped rice. Oh, that sounds good too. I like that. I like the genmaichas. I like that. I like those. I tend to like anything with rice. I don't know, it was the Asian thing, Filipino thing. We're like, oh, anything with rice, I'm all for it. Popeyes with rice, pizza with rice, rice with rice. Sometimes you just want to eat the rice straight. Like you get some of these varietals, you're just like, let me put it in this clay pot and cook it and then just eat it. Sometimes with a little bit of butter, maybe a little bit of soy sauce, or maybe not. Like, I don't know about you guys, but like if you eat the rice, and Keone will probably be the one that really relates to this best because, when you look at the world of soy sauce, there's so much soy sauce in the world. Like I have tried to sample different soy sauces, and it's just like I can't keep up with it. There's just too many. But like, if you have American kikoman, it's very salty. But if you ever get the chance to have the soy sauce from Aloha Shoyu in Honolulu, it's much less salty. It's a little more delicate, right? Which is why when they first came out with the low salt Aloha Shoyu, and I was like, does Aloha Shoyu need a low salt? Like, is that just marketing? Because it's a fairly light soy sauce. Or if you get the Silver Swan from the Philippines, again, very different. Or the Bridges one that's from China, very different. And then even in Japan, like you've got all these different ones. And sometimes you just want to put a little bit of soy sauce and butter on your hot rice. Oh, man, that is so nice. Ah, yes, pop like rice bubbles. Ah, gotcha. Anyway, too much rice. Too much. That's why the opu is big, right? Too much rice. Actually, I went to a restaurant last weekend here in DC, in Washington, DC. Went to, I don't know if I just mentioned this, but kind of like a coffee shop, Filipino restaurant that has like all day service with coffee and pastries. And they had these like what we call silogs, which are basically like garlic fried rice with some kind of meat, typically longaniza, or in this case, beef tapa, and a fried egg. And we're eating, and normally it's white rice, right? And this time they use this purple grainy rice, right? Really kind of fancy. It's a fancy place. They try to be elevated Filipino foods for like white people, hipster, cool DC white people. And one of my friends saw the picture and he's like, oh, purple rice, that's really great for like, lower carb consumption. I said, yeah, it's really great for lower carb consumption because the rice dampens your enthusiasm for rice, so you don't want to eat it. Because it wasn't really cooked very well. Like it wasn't cooked like soft. It was kind of hard and like grainy taste, texture. I was like, yeah, we didn't finish that. We had these wings that were like black garlic adobo wings. We didn't finish those. There's 6 wings. There's 4 of us. 6 wings. We should easily pound these wings if they were good. But no, one was left over. A lot of rice was left over. A lot of stuff was left over because it was like too, not necessarily too elevated, but it just didn't hit the right notes. Now, I guess if you don't have experience with the cuisine, it's going to be amazing. But if you do have experience, you're just kind of like, I want it to be more. I want it to be better. And I always like when I go to places, I always want to be like, this place was awesome. Like that's truly what I really want to be like. This is awesome. I hate to like, and plus I bought like some pastries, like maybe 4 pastries, 4 like coffee drinks. It cost me $75. I was like, $75? What the heck is all this about? It's one of those like up and coming neighborhoods, not. Anyway, beef tapa, yeah, empty head nose. Some adobo sauce and rice, absolutely, man. But if you put the adobo sauce on, like, let's say this purple rice, no, it's got to be this steep. Any of the white rices, not this long grainy rice. I don't know what these people are doing. Yes, and there is a dark shoyu that they have here, which is tasty. Yeah, like. In Thailand, they're going to have their own shoyus. It's crazy. Mouthwater here with tamari. Tamari is good too. There's just too much. Keone says, I had pink rice in Bulacan in the Philippines, which also is really good. Oh, I have not had pink rice. What I think is fascinating and is like you go to these countries, let's say the Philippines, You go to the market, and there's actually many different varieties of rice. You're just like, well, why is it that we don't? Why is we don't know more? We know here in America, we know jasmine, we know American long grain, we know basmati, and then we know like koshihikari, which is the kind of generic rice, general, Japanese style short grain rice. And just like there's so much more, even within the short medium grain rice. There's so many varieties that I would love to like go there and explore more if I had more time. All right, that's it for today. Time to go run off and get some more wood. Peter says blue rice in Southeast Asia dyed with pea flowers. Oh, that's interesting. And then there's black rice here. The black rice I've had. That's interesting. But they're always different. Like the texturally, they're always different. But when you're eating though, like it's fun to eat those other rices, right? And explore them and have them. But when you want to eat, like you just want to get down with like, you have your fork and spoon and you're just ready to like dig into it, right? Or your chopstick and you just need to like get going. Like, do you really want? I don't really want fancy rice. I just want it to go well with the meats. Dan says that I know that's not a variety of rice, but I don't enjoy parboiled rice. I have distinct memories from childhood associated with parboiled. I totally understand. But here's my thing, right? Like, and maybe it's because I grew up in America where I'm kind of like, where I feel like I'm rice deficient, right? If it's available to me, I will probably choose that at a restaurant. Like parboiled rice pilaf, whatever, any kind of like crazy rice they might have. I'm like, all right, I'll have that, please. Like, I'm not even a fan of rice pilaf, but if they have rice pilaf over, I don't know, potatoes, like, well, I'll take the pilaf then because it's at least somewhat close, right? Like even with like risotto, it's like, okay, risotto works too. Kevin says that the rice growers in Buscalan just grow the pink ones for themselves. They don't. Oh, see, that's what people do. These farmers, they keep the best stuff for themselves. Peter says that steamier rice is a better way to cook it nowadays. Ooh, I know. I see the steamers. I have to like work more on that. Doing the steaming. Maybe just put, just get Just get the cheesecloth, put it in the steamer basket, put the rice in, and just let it go. I mean, it's not going to be any faster than my Tiger. I got a Tiger here that's all like fuzzy logic and doing all this stuff, and it still takes like an hour to make the rice. It's like, I thought it took a lot shorter when we were younger. It's just like the washing machines. I don't know if you guys have the new washing machine. We have these washing machines that are like not totally new, but they're fairly new, right? They're the energy efficient. And it's like, why is it taking me an hour to wash the clothes? It used to only take 20 minutes. In an hour, I could have it washed and dried. Now it takes like 2.5 hours to do a laundry. I'm like, all right. Anyway, enough bitching. Time to run. We'll be back again tomorrow with more coffee Q&A. And yeah. Pot with water and rice in it and put it in the steamer. What I want to try though is that the one from Thailand, the one that you get the round spittoon looking spun aluminum thing, and you put the big like wedge basket and you steam that. I want to make that one day. All right. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful day out there. Be back again tomorrow with more coffee Q&A and maybe a little more rice. All right. See you then.